Welcome to Myth and Ztories. This episode is about part 2 of Eris Mourn.
All right. So, to give a quick recap for our previous episode, we were talking about Eris Mourn, particularly kind of some of the fragments we have of her pre-Guardian life into her early Guardian life during the Ahamkara hunts.
So here's a funny thing. Well, here's a funny thing that I was thinking about last time too, and I don't know if I asked it last time.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know when she became a guardian?
I don't know that we know exactly when.
You know what I mean? Because if we have two different, because that was part of what we covered last week too. There's two different variants of her origin, like where the hell she came
tellings,
from. Yeah. One of them has video and audio and photographic evidence of the truth of an entity called Eris Mourn was born in the city, or not necessarily in the city, but in a guardian mortal cohabitation area.
So maybe not even named Eris Mourn at the time, because
right,
she would have taken a different name as a guardian. Let me bring those notes up here.
And the other version being some telling from old Russia, but that was all in a swimmer that died from trying to swim from one place to another,
St. Petersburg
across the frozen
Stockholm.
Arctic.
Yep.
But that one was in the Truth to Power, so that's where, since we don't, Truth to Power is a very mysterious book, so we don't really have a lot of
mysterious
faith
is
in
one word for it.
Yeah. So that's the origin that's in question.
So I pulled up my notes from the previous episode, and it says that there is civilian family albums, historical archives, and ghost recordings originally captured in the Lost City that show Eris as a child of the last city, born to civilian parents in a mortal guardian integrated neighborhood. So she was a kid in the last city. There are ghosts that existed at the time of her birth that saw her and remember her and still have video evidence of it.
That's post-collapse that she was born in.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the last city did not exist until well past the collapse.
That's kind of what I'm getting at too. Like Zavala, there's images of Zavala helping build the last city.
Yeah.
In like I remember there's a cutscene. There's a series of cutscenes that involve Zavala, and it shows him being risen, and then it shows him eating shacks in a camp, and then it kind of zooms further and shows that we're not gonna follow the warlords of the risen. We're gonna stand for humanity. We're gonna build this last city. And so like the fact that she is the recordings are shown as her being born in the last city means that she is a very recent guardian.
I mean, at least as recent as the last city's creation. So by all accounts, most of the Vanguard, as we know them, Shax, I guess Shax isn't part of the Vanguard, but Zavala and Shax and Saladin and the Drifter and all of those people would far predate her as far as when they were resurrected as a guardian.
Yep.
So we get as we said, kind of two recordings of her pre-guardian life. One that seems much more substantial. The other, which is from a very unreliable narrator in the Truth to Power book. We then see kind of her first, or the first adventures as a guardian that we are introduced to as the player, and that is during the Great Hunt, which was essentially the guardians hunting the Ahamkara to extinction on Venus. And all of that lore is present on the hunter gear from the Last Wish raid. The hunter armor from the Last Wish raid.
I'm curious if there's something about Venus itself that drew the Ahamkara there as like a homeworld. I don't have any type of like I mean, obviously this is not an Ahamkara episode, but the fact that they are all there, we may do a Ahamkara episode.
I think Ahamkara are absolutely worth an episode.
Or 4.
Or 4. We'll see. We'll see how deep that rabbit hole
Join
goes.
us next time on our 16-part episode of What is an Ahamkara and why are they so dangerous?
I feel like we, throughout our other subjects, we've touched on a lot of what our theories are of Ahamkara and where they show up
absolutely.
in the lore, but we've never put it all together in one spot. So that would be good to do at some point. But so Eris was at the Great Hunt, was one of the major contributors from the sounds of it, based on these lore cards in the Great Hunt. And she had interactions with Ikora as well as Shax and Zavala, and what was maybe the most the I don't know if unfortunate is the correct term, but the most fated interaction she had was with a guardian by the name of Wei Ning. Because Wei Ning then went on to fight in what is now termed the Great Disaster, which was the Guardians essentially laying siege to the hive on the moon, the hive under the direction of Crota at the time. Wei Ning died, as many others did, in that battle, which spurred her partner, it heavily implied lover but never explicitly said, Ariana 3, to try to seek vengeance. Ariana forms a fire team of like-minded guardians that all want to go to the moon and kill Crota for reasons of their own, except for Tolan. Tolan just wants to go to the moon to kill everyone else, apparently.
Why did hive stuff happen? Because fucking Tolan.
So Eris is one of the members of that fire team, and ends up being the only member of the fire team that makes it out alive. But she does so very changed from when she went into it. She no longer has her ghost. She has replaced her eyes with the eyes of an acolyte. She was guided out of these catacombs under the moon after being there for years, by
many cycles.
Many cycles, as it's stated in the lore. But she's guided out by the whispers of an Ahamkara bone, which presumably she had kept from her times at the hunt. And that Ahamkara bone is that little green stone that you see her carry around everywhere.
Get your rock off my map.
Cade.
I miss you, Cade.
We had discussed this before.
I always wanted to see like some sort of I don't know if there's a true like love connection there, but I feel like there was something there between Eris and Cade.
I don't know.
Definitely a kinship.
I don't know if I read into it as far as like a romance. I think maybe sibling, like
sure,
sibling connection more than anything. Like,
yeah,
he's the annoying little brother,
she was a hunter
kind of thing.
So I mean,
they were both hunters. This is true.
All the hunters, kind of look out for each other. That's
yep. And say when you're, out in the field, you can only rely on the other members of your hunter squad if you're scouting. Yeah. So I think there was certainly some level of kinship there. I don't think it went, beyond anything that we saw in game.
Darn. I thought we were gonna have a special Valentine's Day romance between.
Now, sorry to bust
undead,
that fanfic, but
two undead members, one fully darkness now. maybe not fully darkness. Does she still use the light? Have we seen Eris use the light since
She has no
losing her
ghost.
ghost?
She has no ghost. She has no
that's
way to
ultimately
channel
the
it.
question, right? Like that's it though. That's the answer. Like she has no way to channel it.
Right. Ghosts
But she
are
can use stasis.
the conduit to light. Yeah, she can use stasis. Technically, we could use stasis without our ghost. Our ghost was encased in stasis, cut off from us, presumably, during the Beyond Light campaign when we utilized it against Aramis. So
that's a good cutscene too. That was a fun one. When she takes your darkness shard and shatters it. Where's your darkness now? And then starts encasing you in ice. And then it's like in the back of your mind, it's Elsie, and she's just like, feel the darkness within you, channel it, and you're just like, Pah! And Aramis is like, interesting. Come at me, bro.
it is a very Star Wars moment in all of the good and bad ways that can be taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of campy, and
it's super cheesy. Like it's super super cheesy.
But it works out to be okay.
It does. So Eris, so where do we end last episode at?
So we ended with Eris had just crawled out of these catacombs and had made a connection with the Guardian, our player. Had convinced them to essentially do what the Vanguard would not, which was the dismantling of Crota's hierarchy, and by nature of doing that, also dismantling his lines of tribute, to force him to be starving to death and then to go kill him. Which we succeeded in doing, and that's pretty much where we ended last time.
The end of the Dark Below campaign with the Crota raid.
Yep. So
now we get to the part of Destiny that I'm at. The next part that Eris takes place in is quite possibly my favorite time in Destiny. Mainly because this is where I started playing Destiny, with the Taken King. So this is where I'm heavily invested here.
Yes. So now we enter the time period of the Taken King, and I should say we're gonna talk just a little bit about events that happened immediately before the Taken King.
Okay.
So specifically, there is a lore card that came out prior to the Taken King, or it's the time period the lore card was written in was prior to the Oryx arriving in the solar system, and it seems to imply that with Crota dead, Eris is now actively turning her attention to other hive gods, namely that she knows Oryx is coming, and she wants to be ready. She wants to do something about it. And so she has a meeting with Mara Sov, who we've already established she had a good relationship with all the way back during the Ahamkara hunts.
Yep.
And Osiris. And she has a meeting of these two, essentially to let them know what is coming and that they need to prepare. And the lore card for this is a ghost fragment by the name of the Pt.2, the number 2. And it reads as such. You don't have one. The hunter came to a halt in front of the throne, raised her covered face to meet the prince's gaze. No, she agreed. My next death will be my last. I know the feeling, the prince said dryly. The queen kept her expression carefully distant. She sat reclined in her throne, legs crossed, surveying the two figures at the base of the steps. Beside her, where the Wolves' Guard used to stand, Techians Shuro and Sadia hovered instead, their jewel-like augments gently humming. To her right, and just before, stood the prince, facing forward, but his body half turned, back toward her. "Your Grace," said the man before her, at the foot of the stairs. His voice was soft, but strong. When he spoke, the hunter started to turn her head toward him, then flinched, as if someone had shone a bright light into her eyes. "Thank you for your gracious welcome," he said. The queen inclined her head slightly. "Before we begin," spoke the hunter, "I will say this." She paused, her head tilted up to the throne. The queen waved her hand in assent. The hunter's pale lips tightened slightly, then resumed their usual stony mien. "Your Grace," she said. Shuro and Sadia shifted, a sudden rustling and whispering. The queen raised one finger to silence them. Aldrin's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. "I am not here for you." The queen stared at the hunter, her expression seditiously unchanged. "I have no wish to play politics. I have no grievance with the city, not anymore. I have no grand hopes to end the war, for long have I known I will not see its end. I am here for one battle, and one alone, because it is a battle we must all fight, together or separately. So I will warn the defenders, together or separately. I will do anything," her voice low shook with passion, "to end Oryx." A silence rang out in the room. The hunter kept her head raised, her ambitious gaze directed at the shadows in the throne where the queen reclined. Then a small smile curved the queen's lips. "Well said." She straightened and leaned slightly forward so the room's light fell on her face. "So let us end him."
Ooh,
So
shivers. Ooh.
we've got a pretty telling interaction here between who's clearly the queen and Eris. Now, everything I can see suggests that the third party here is likely Osiris. He, being male first off, and then Eris not being able to look at him because he shone so bright.
Yeah.
The only guardian that comes to mind that would be a big part of the lore up till this point that is always associated with like bright solar light, and especially if this is an echo, or excuse me, not an echo, but a reflection of Osiris and not
Ooh.
Osiris himself, that would also, is literally a figure made of light.
Yeah. I could definitely see that being the canon Osiris that's there is one of his reflections. Because if you think about it, like Osiris got kicked out of the last city long before
Oh yeah,
any of this. Like Osiris has been out on his own since before even D1, since before the events of D1. And so if she has any type of connection with him, like it would be through a reflection. I don't think that he would actively leave because he's been in the Infinite Forest the entire time, right? Like ever since he got kicked out, he went straight to Mercury and was like, "I'm going to explore the Infinite Forest."
I think that's the assumption, at least.
Okay. Because I know there's a little bit of fuckiness there with the lore, because they had that one comic book that came out that kind of contradicted a little bit what was going on during Curse of Osiris, and of course, then that was Curse of Osiris was kind of that iffy point in Destiny 2. I'll call it a low point.
It was a low point for
even,
sure. Yeah.
I was going to say even Bungie has admitted as much. Like, hey, we were still trying to get this thing up and running and going. So yeah, so I know there's a lot of iffiness around there. so we can't say definitively one way or another. But I do think the idea of him getting kicked out of the city, and just going to finding the infinite forest, and trying to make his sundial, all of that stuff is all what happened there.
Yeah. And a few things, I think, a few additional things we can kind of glean from this interaction. Again, just really reinforces that Eris and the Queen have a lot of respect towards each other. We don't exactly know how their relationship started or when they first met each other, or what, but for whatever reason, they both seem to hold each other in a very high regard. And in the Maracena, I'm paraphrasing because this is off memory, but I remember Mara saying something to the effect to Sheer that like that hunter is the only one that knows the full plan, or is one of the only people that knows the full plan, because even if I didn't tell her, she'd figure it out anyway. Which seems to be a pretty clear indication that she's talking about Eris. So she trusted Eris enough to make her privy to her plans with Oryx, and the intention to die and to invade the Ascendant Plane, and all of that, which she did not tell most, if anyone else, the full story as far as we understand it.
Right.
So this little interaction happens. This would have been after the House of Wolves DLC, because they talk about the wolves no longer being there, and instead it's Techians that are standing guard over Mara's throne. So our next introduction to these events is the Taken King campaign, which starts with a incredible space battle.
Oh my god!
It is that whole cutscene is wonderful and far too short, in my opinion. We could
not do enough justice here on this little podcast to that thing. If y'all get a chance, Google it. Just Taken King cutscene, first cutscene, Taken King. Like that's any combination of that will bring it up. It is a fantastic cutscene. There's so much emotion in it. There's so much that happens in it. And I want to say Eris is talking in the back, like she's narrating in the background, isn't she? Or is that Queen Mara that's narrating in the background?
I don't believe there's any narration to the battle between the Awoken and Oryx.
Right, but there's almost like a letter being read to the Guardian, is what it seems like during that. And I think it's Mara talking the entire time.
It could be. It has been a minute since I've watched it, so I may be not remembering all the details. What I do remember for sure, though, is it showed off to us the Awoken fleet, and all of their cruisers, and all of their spacefaring warfare warships.
And Mara's main ship was it's a ketch, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah, I think it was.
I think I remember it being a stolen catch from, or maybe not a stolen catch, maybe from one of the houses that what I can't remember the house that she stopped on the reef.
Wolves
on the way to the House of Wolves.
Yeah.
So it probably is. It probably is one of theirs.
It probably is. But so she comes in, flanked by all of these many starships. And Oryx's dreadnought is floating at this point, kind of within the rings of Saturn, or next to the rings of Saturn. And you see this Awoken fleet come down, and they're just peppering the dreadnought ship with everything they've got. And from Oryx, and then we see Oryx's point of view, and this is the first time that we are introduced to Oryx in game. Obviously there were trailers and marketing material before this, but this is his first appearance in game. and his first act is to essentially just shrug all that off and smile and be like, "Oh, this is cute." And then he places his sword into an altar on the dreadnought, and is described as he pushes his throne world out into reality, and the act of doing so is essentially him pushing his will onto the reality that it touches. They talk about this a little bit in the Witch Queen trailers as well, where Savathun and the Bungie devs refer to Savathun's throne world as, essentially it is the same as her mind.
Yep.
Same thing with Oryx. His throne is his reality, reflects his mind, his personality.
And we've talked about that too in the Books of Sorrow episodes that we did. The throne world is very much like they are gods there. Everything about it is I almost describe it as like they think it and it exists there, but it's even more intimate than that. It's like they don't even have to think it. Like it just, everything about that space is the equivalency of the inside of their mind. And so any type of their deepest, darkest desires, any type of anything that they think up, anything that they even have an inkling to, can manifest in that throne world. And since Oryx has his throne world directly attached to the dreadnought, because we talked about that too, that's where he put his throne world, was in the dreadnought, which is the dreadnought being the at least a section of spine. I don't know if it's the entire worm, but a section of Akka, right?
Yes, Akka.
Yep.
And if I recall correctly, in the Books of Sorrow, they describe him merging his throne with the dreadnought as him turning his throne world inside out, or something along those lines. So it is essentially the same place. Like the dreadnought is his throne is the dreadnought.
Yep.
And
that's how he's able to. That's
tied.
how he's able to. Yep. And that's how he's able to push that throne world out. And in game we see this as this huge shock pulse wave thing that creates a giant hole in the rings of Saturn. Which if you play D2 at kind of the beginning or when Titan was around, you could actually look up at the skybox and you could look at the rings of Saturn and you could see a little hole with a dot in it, and that was the dreadnought. So that's canonically that is still there. Like the dreadnought is still just chilling there in Saturn's rings with a space around it. And by proxy, not by proxy, I guess, another effect of this throne world being pushed out is it devastated the Awoken fleet. Like it destroyed thousands of ships.
I would say
and Awoken lives with it.
Probably 99% or very close to that.
Of the Reefborn Awoken.
Of the Reefborn Awoken were completely eradicated. Certainly all of their military
Uldren was there.
force.
He got. Yep, we talked about when Uldren was there during our episodes that we covered his life.
Yep.
He basically floated off and crash landed on Mars. So I mean, I know, like we always try to describe stuff in here, and we always talk about how like the human mind has a hard time accepting sizes of things and big numbers. Like anything past like a 4-digit number, the human mind truly can't comprehend. And so when we think about falling from the rings of Saturn to Mars, that distance is huge, like insanely huge. Like I don't even, I'd have to Google the distance myself. He
was floating for a little while, and I guess it's worth mentioning, I don't necessarily think he was just adrift and went all the way from Saturn to Mars. I think it was either the shockwave was so powerful it gave him enough velocity that he got there in enough time to not be an old man. or his ship
he had at least some sort of
had
power
some
left in
kind
his
of
ship.
propulsion. Yeah, like there was enough to get there, and that happened somehow to be
because even
next
during
safe
that
space.
that's there, he is. I mean, he's pushing his ship to the limit. Like he's screaming like like trying to get the hell away from this shockwave, as hard and as fast as he can. So yeah. But yeah. So Eris doesn't really play a part in this scene at all, but she obviously played a part in telling this is coming. This thing is coming for us. This event happens, decimates the Reborn Awoken fleet and people, for that matter. Kills Mara, which we discussed that as well. She did that intentionally so she could slip past him into his throne world and be there and wait for the Guardians on the other side to kill Oryx, so she could remanifest.
Which we'll go over in our revisiting of the Mara Senna at some point in the future. Soon, TM.
Hashtag new episode.
Yeah. But no, I think it's important that to link this to Eris, and in that Eris knew Oryx was coming. She warned Mara and presumably Osiris, who I guess didn't care. Because he never showed
that
up.
literally is what it sounded like. I mean, the fact that Osiris is the whole reason why he left is he was shunned. Like he
right.
That was the big thing of him leaving the city in the first place. Like that's why they have like the following of like the following of Osiris. Like they have people like Brother Vance and stuff like that. He was literally a cult of personality, and it for the vanguard of the time, which was what him, the speaker, and
was it Saint? Was Saint on the
Saint,
vanguard?
I think was the other vanguard, and who was Cade's predecessor?
Oh, Andrel Brask, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I keep wanting to say Randall Brask, but that's not.
Maybe it was
not Randall the
It
Vandal.
was Andel Brask.
I think so. But yeah, so those were like the key vanguard, and I put that in quotations because I don't really think they were called the vanguard at the time. I don't remember. But anyway, yeah. So like for Osiris to have some of these visions that he was having, and to say, hey, like there's bigger threats out there than what we're even seeing, and then people following him rather than following the speaker and the vanguard as a whole, and they all the vanguard of that time saw the speaker as very much like a fatherly figure. I think even Saint refers to him as father.
Yes.
In some of their interactions.
Even in game now, some of his idle dialogue, if you just stand around him in the hangar, he refers to the speaker as father.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there's very much a family type relationship going on there with the vanguard of the time, and then for Osiris, for people to just start following a single person and be like, well, he can predict the future, da 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 blah 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 blah. Like that's kind of like heresy type thing. Like that's because we talked about the vanguard itself too being kind of like a religious type of following of the light.
Mm-hmm.
And for a single figure to come forward and an entire group of people start following and listening to what this one figure is saying is very hereticky, like very, very sacrilege-y.
It would be to try to draw a modern equivalent here. If we equate the speaker to the Pope, and he is the religious figurehead for those that follow the light, which is pretty much everyone in the city, whether they're a guardian or a human, they're believing the light is going to protect them. If we take that kind of scenario and then imagine one of the cardinals not necessarily claiming that they are all-knowing, because he never did. He just found evidence to suggest that the Vex were going to become a major problem and that they needed to be dealt with. And when he wasn't listened to, he published his proof that was the case. And it was those publishings that circulated through the city amongst the Guardians and humanity, and his following kind of formed of that. So it would be as if a cardinal published a pamphlet of sorts that contradicted or provided proof against something that the Pope had said was not something to be concerned with. And you can only imagine the kind of divide that would have amongst people. That's essentially what
Absolutely
they saw in the last city during the time that all of that was going down.
Yep. Which still has nothing to do with Eris. We're getting really good
still
about
has
these
nothing to do with
episodes. We started with Eris and we've gone completely off the rails, but that's what we do here.
Well, what I will say,
go ahead.
One interpretation, like I said before, is that Eris warned Osiris as well as Mara, and Osiris just didn't care because he never showed up during the campaign.
Yep.
The other interpretation, I suppose, is that Osiris did care, and he was running simulation after simulation after simulation in the Infinite Forest of this event to try and help come up with this Grandmaster plan. And that is something we know. Mara has her own, her own goals that she is trying to accomplish as well. But I don't think. Maybe this is giving her not enough credit, but I think Mara may have known what she wanted out of Oryx, but she didn't know how to access the Ascendant Plane to enact those wants until she met Eris, who knew
I think you're right.
how all the Hive inner work, how the Hive rituals worked and the Ascendant realms worked and the Throne worlds worked. And then if we want to loop Osiris into this, we can say with that knowledge, Osiris then went through all the simulations, did the Doctor Strange thing at the end of Endgame, Infinity War, and found the one most optimal path for success. And that's what they carried out.
Here's an even better idea. I'm going to take your idea and bring it to the next level.
All right.
Osiris goes back to he recalls his vision back to the Infinite Forest, and he starts trying to run simulations. The Vex can't simulate paracausal abilities and paracausal powers, so he runs into an infinite number of timelines that he cannot figure out, and that's why we don't have an interaction with him until Curse of Osiris.
Yeah. No, I think
the whole time that we're
water.
doing the Taken campaign, all of that, all the way into D2. That's why he's not privy to anything that happens with Gaul, any of that. He is literally still, like, at the time that Curse of Osiris happens, he is still trying to run simulations of how to deal with orcs.
Maybe so. I would have to go back and look at some of the lore surrounding Osiris. Osiris needs an episode of his own. Let's be honest. But
God, we have so many ideas for episodes. I'm so excited.
They're not stopping anytime soon. And I could only imagine after next week, it's going to be even crazier.
It's going to get cranked up to 11.
Yeah. So, okay, bringing all this back.
Yes.
So Eris was either the mastermind or took a major role in the developing of this plan, which Mara knew was going to lead to nearly the end of the Reefborn Awoken, and determined that sacrifice was worth whatever she was hoping to gain out of all this.
Doesn't that just blow your mind, though?
It's
the
crazy.
Sacrifice of an entire people was worth it. Like whatever the next part of that plan was worth it. To sacrifice an entire, her own people, not just like a random sect of people or a random grouping of people, like to sacrifice her own population and in its entirety. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah. Mara is just a tad egotistical.
Maybe.
Definitely. So now enters the events of what that plan did accomplish, other than the almost total annihilation of the Awoken, was the Dreadnought was stalled. The dreadnought was
Yep.
stuck in place in Saturn's rings and could not move. So that gave us, the Guardian, an opportunity. And we accomplished that opportunity tangentially through Eris via the use of her ship, whether she knows it or not.
We just borrowed it.
We just borrowed it.
As Cade put it, can't even see the join lines.
Nope. So we.
Oh, I'm not flying that thing.
I think we what is it? We get some cloaking tech from one of Rasputin's bunkers, if I recall correctly.
From Cade, specifically from Cade. Cade reminds us of a secret stash of stealth tech that he had hidden away, and on our way up to it, we start coming across Taken, because the first mission is us going to Phobos. We get a distress call from Phobos, which is essentially the main base in our solar system for the Cabal. And
at that time,
at the time. Which Phobos is the moon, is one of Mars, one of the moons of Mars, that the Tachyons actually pulled closer to Mars to do something. I don't know. There's a whole thing there. So we end up going there, and while we're there, Oryx shows up. Oryx does this scary Taken face thing to us, and all of a sudden Taken start pouring in out of everywhere, and we're trying to figure this out. We're like, what in the hell is this enemy? What is going on? We start freaking out, and Ghost is like, get back to the ship. Just get the hell off this planet. We need to go report. So you start fighting your way back, and you end up getting back to your ship. You head back to the tower, and that's when they have the whole scene with Eris. Shows the Vanguard is looking at the map of the dreadnought, and it's showing the events of the throne world being pushed out and decimating everything around it. And they're asking, like, what they're trying. Ikora and Cade and Zavala are all just kind of like asking each other, like, what the hell's going on here? Eris walks in, shoves her little rock, her little Aham Karabone onto the map, and that's where we get the line. And she says Crota or Oryx is here. He's here not just to avenge Crota, but this was the big bad that I've been trying. Basically, this is the big bad I've been trying to warn you about for the last year. For possibly even longer than that. I told you guys this is what was going to happen, and that's when the whole Cade says, Eris, get your rock off my map. So then, as they're going through this meeting, Cade, being the hunter that he is, he walks off and he's like, oh, I gotta go see a man about a horse, basically. So he comes to you as the Guardian. It's like, hey, we need to get on that ship. Like, we need to get a Guardian in there. We need to get boots on ground. We need to start kicking ass and taking names, which is that's a pretty hunter thing to do. Not just a ballsy thing to do, but a very stealthy thing to do. So he says, I've got a bit of stealth. He's scouting, exactly. Yeah. He's doing the hunter thing. He wants to scout this thing out and just get a lone Guardian in there. Figure this whole thing out. And so he comes to you as the Guardian and says, hey, I've got some old stealth tech stashed away. And during that mission, there's actually a secret area that you can get to, and I almost want to go load up D1 and go to this area. But it explains a little bit about Cade, because he leaves a card. There's a card, like a Queen of Hearts card, laying on the or Queen of Spades, I think it was, either Queen of Spades or Queen of Hearts, laying on the ground, and he talks about it. Like, he talks about how he left clues for himself after each reset to know what the reset before knew, which gives us a little bit of insight to the EXO reset thing, which we'll cover when we cover Clovis Bray.
And Cade, I think.
But on your way up what's that?
I say, and Cade, I know we've talked about doing a specific Cade episode or series of episodes, and yeah,
my God,
we'll touch on all of that.
100%. So as you're going up that tower, about halfway up, you meet your first booper, because Destiny Bungie guys are kind of assholes to you, the player. And it's literally like you jump into a blind hole, and literally sitting on the other side of the blind hole is a Taken Phalanx with a booper shield, and he instantly boops you off and kills you because you're not ready for it. So you miss your jump to get back on the thing. Or if you're a warlock, like the rest of the world, hashtag master race. You fall to your death very, very slowly, and just like, well, this blows, and you have to run up the tower again. You get to the top, you defeat I want to say it's like a vision of Oryx or something like that. There's a bunch of big old Taken fight at the top. You get the stealth tech, you bring it back. Cade goes out to Amanda Holiday and says, "Hey, I need you. What better way to get onto a Hive ship than reeking of Hive, which is Eris Mourn's ship. Eris Mourn's ship is there's all this Hive. What is it called? What's the growth stuff called?
Chitin.
Chitin.
I think
Some people call it chitin. Like it's a mix between a chinchilla and a kitten. No, it's chitin.
Yeah.
So it's got all the Hive chitin growth on it, so it very much reeks of Hive, and that's how Cade says we're going to get a man on the inside. He straps he has Amanda Holiday strap on this stealth tech, and that's where he goes. Imagine this: an unsanctioned op with lone guardian, stealth, untested stealth tech to get to land a lone guardian on the dreadnought, to then place a transmat zone, and then bring in the cavalry. And then Amanda's like, all right, she'll be ready for you in a sec. And Cade's like, oh, I'm not flying that thing. Screw that. That's where we as the guardian then borrow.
Get to fly
and I'm
that
putting
thing.
that in quotation marks. Yeah, we got to fly that thing. And that's the next scene we see there is that cutscene of us flying in. We stealth up. We get just inside I don't know what to call it, but the dead zone between the rings and the dreadnought itself, where it's just empty space now. We get just inside that and about almost up to the dreadnought, and then all of a sudden our stealth tech wears off, and then we're literally just face to face with a dreadnought, and goes to sit next to us in the cockpit, and they're like, "Do you think he sees us?" And then that's when you start seeing the weapon power up again. The Oryx starting to push his throne world out through that same weapon again. And Ghost freaks out and he's like, oh, they see us. So you kick it into high gear and you start hauling ass as fast as you can to the dreadnought, trying to beat the weapon firing to the dreadnought. And it ends up destroying the ship, but in the instance that it destroys it, your Ghost transmats you onto the side of the ship in this little open, almost hangar bay like area.
Very conveniently placed.
Very conveniently placed hangar bay area, and you are now on the dreadnought, stuck there. No ship, no nothing. You got to now find your way out.
Yeah. So, as much as
hopefully
I
didn't jump past like 3 pages of your notes.
No. You're doing good. As much as I would love to go through all of Taken King in a blow by blow, we will be here all night, and we will not get any progress done on the episode. This is not a Taken
King episode either.
So
I like that idea. I like getting that little sense in there. For any of our D2 players that didn't get to play D1, or haven't played D1, or haven't played D1 in a while. I just that series of cutscenes, like that whole mission of going, getting that stealth tech, getting on the ship, getting on the dreadnought. That's a cool thing.
No, it is. And it was such a awesome moment as a D1 player to have that, because up until that point, we had never done anything like this before.
No.
In game.
No.
Like everything about the intro to Taken King and Taken King as a whole was so incredibly groundbreaking.
Amazing.
For Destiny at the time that I don't think there's a single person that didn't love Taken King, and even now looking back on it can go, man, that was a lot of fun.
That was the one.
Yeah.
That was the one. That was what got me hooked.
Say hopefully Witch Queen will be of the same caliber.
A million pre-orders already. A million plus and growing. And we still got a week till it comes out.
The hype is certainly of a higher caliber. We'll see if the delivery is
real.
Is the same.
Yeah.
So to do some broad strokes as to what happens in Taken King, at this point, our Guardian is successful in getting the transmat zone, and Zavala does the whole like, fine, I'm not gonna be mad
Yeah.
because you won.
Because it worked.
Yeah,
Like,
because it
if it had
worked.
failed, he would have been pissed.
Yeah.
But because it worked, he's like, whatever, I don't care.
Like, sure, fine. And now we're under there's a number of missions that happen here that take us in a number of different directions, but the Golden Path mission that we want to focus on for this is us working with under the direction of Eris, usually.
Yep.
To kind of do what we did to Crota.
100%.
Find the main sources of Oryx's tribute and eliminate them, and at the same time find a way to pass ourselves off as an ascendant hive so that we can access Oryx's throne.
The balls on this plan. Become an Ascendant Hive. You lone little guardian who just learned what Ascendant Hive even is. I mean, you kind of knew a little bit about it with Crota, but
yeah,
like, you're really like, become an Ascendant Hive. Go. Shit. Okay.
So, the way that we accomplish this ascendancy is to go back to Crota and Crota's throne world, essentially sneak into his funeral and steal his soul,
drink of his essence,
steal bits of his soul, enough that the whatever qualifier the ascendant portals use, they will see your guardian as being worthy to use them. And I do think that's an interesting concept, because this is the only point where they talk about needing to be an ascendant hive to use the to pass back and forth between the ascendant plane
right,
and our reality, and it literally never comes up again.
Well, okay, so I have a few theories on that one too.
Okay.
So I'm going to do my first theory with Mara. The only way she was able to get in was to die.
Right, she used Oryx's... She essentially used Oryx pushing his throne out to meet her as a way of, like, slyly
slipping
getting
past
access to his throne. Yeah.
Yep. So, and she didn't get back out for a while. Like,
no, she
had to
couldn't.
literally... She couldn't. She had to literally remake her body atom by atom to get out. So that to me says something about the Ascendant Plane. There is definitely something there that we, as either, whether it be the humanness in them, because obviously Mara's partial human, although she is awoken, because that's where all awoken originated as humans. But whether it's the human side of us, maybe it's the half light, half dark thing. I don't know. There's something there that prevents us from being able to enter the Ascendant realm. Once we have done that, we can now enter any Ascendant realm. So, like,
Yeah.
we've essentially been an Ascendant hive, or we have some sort of artifact or something that allows us to be Ascendant, which is what allows us to enter the Ascendant planes in Forsaken, in D2. That allows us to enter now with D2. There's a little bit more to it, because while we're in the Dreaming City, we have to drink of the Queen's Foil, or we have to douse ourselves in Queen's Foil in order to see these portals. But we can freely enter them. Like, once we get to them, we can enter and exit all we want. So yeah. So I think that that's why it only happens once. Like, because we have been Ascendant before, it's easier for us the next time through.
The one hole I may poke in this.
God damn it, Myth.
I mean it. I think part of it's
poke away.
So, canonically, not every guardian that went through D2 went through
God damn it.
D1.
God damn it.
There were newly resurrected. It just depends on who.
There's a whole New Light campaign too. God damn it, Myth.
Started the game.
All right.
I
You
do
win that
wonder if
hole.
that's a thread that maybe has been left to the wayside, because it would be a pain to try and explain how every single new Guardian somehow becomes ascendant to then access the Dreaming
I can
City
see that.
and those, and then access everything in Season of the Lost. We're literally going into the ascendant plane,
Jumping in. Yeah.
in and out all the time in Season of the Lost. So
Now, to
I
be fair, the ascendant plane there, we have a portal being powered by darkness.
this is true. This is true. Which
Because
then
those
brings,
cables from that portal are led back to the umbral
yeah. So
thing.
then that brings a question of, is the need to be an ascendant or an ascendant hive, is that specifically something that is required to enter a hive throne world versus just the ascendant plane in general? Like, maybe that qualifier is set by the creator of the throne world, not part of just the ascendant realm in general.
All right, your idea is cooler. And
I don't know
it
about
works
that,
more.
but it
works a lot better. God damn it!
well, we'll just see.
All right.
If there's a little mini mission at the beginning of Witch Queen to become ascendant to go into Savathun's hive, throne world, or maybe Savathun doesn't care.
That could. I mean, that could be the thing too. Like Oryx could have set a parameter for his throne world to say only Ascendant Hive can enter this, and thus we, not being Ascendant Hive, cannot enter his throne world. Cannot enter his throne world proper, because again, that whole, it's tied to the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought's tied to it, and they're one and the same essentially. And we see that throughout the Dreadnought too. There's areas in the Dreadnought that have invisible platforms, and those platforms are said to be existent. They're kind of like the in between. Like it's almost like they exist on both sides of the portal. Like a phasing issue. Like they're out of phase with us, but when we get close to it, we project enough light that we can phase part of it into our existence. So that's that. I always thought that was cool with all the jumping puzzles in there too. That kind of led back to that.
Yeah, the exploration in the Dreadnought is easily some of the best they've done in a location.
Dude, we are sucking at staying on point of Eris.
Yeah, we are, but that's okay. So we're gonna
so
go back
much for
to
this being a
Eris now.
two-part episode.
We're gonna go back to Eris now. So again, broad strokes again on task.
Yes.
On task. Eris leads us to become ascendant by using Crota's essence. We then dismantle upon Eris's direction, for the most part, dismantle the tribute lines that are feeding Oryx to get, similar to how we did to Crota, we're getting Oryx to the point where he is just, his worm is eating him from the inside out, because it does not have these lines of tribute coming in to feed it anymore.
Well, and by us defeating Crota, that was a huge line of tribute.
That was his biggest.
Right.
Crota gave him the biggest chunk, and that's the main reason why he invaded the Sol system in the first place. It's not because he cared about Crota. It's not because he's mourning, the loss of his son. That's not how the Hive work. It's because we eliminated his main source of tribute, which was two things. A is real bad for his, sustained feeding of his worm, for 60% or however much of your, probably 40% of your food to just disappear. And then B, Crota was a very significant member of the Hive at this point, and the fact that something that he came across was able to kill him and kill him permanently, by nature of the sword logic, dictates that it's something that Oryx has to test himself against, and it's something that, by nature of his worm, he has to learn about.
He has to know it. He has to know more about it.
So he's not coming to us out of grief. He's coming because he has no other choice in multiple ways. So we fight him on the Dreadnought in our reality.
Do we fight him or do we hug him?
No, we definitely fight him.
Okay.
We
Sorry, the way you
definitely
said
fight him.
fight him, I instantly thought of Encanto and was like, and you fight her. No, wait. Is that an embrace? Do you hug her? Am I fighting or hugging? Yeah.
I've still not seen that movie because I do not
Well,
have children.
Hey, you don't have to be a children to love Disney. We're all children at heart.
And I have still not seen that movie. So,
For those of you that want to help Myth catch flack, beg him to go see Encanto.
And it won't work.
So we fight
him eventually. But so we fight him in our realm. We defeat him, kinda. And say his last act in us defeating him is to take himself. And what we learned from the Books of Sorrow, what taking technically is Oryx is transporting whatever that thing is that he's taking to stand before the darkness, and the darkness strips all will away from that thing so that Oryx can then command it. So this is kind of like Oryx's version of, smoke bomb out. He's taking himself.
That's like if you try to think of that in a literal sense, that is a mind fuck. Like Oryx smoke bombed out to the darkness, stood before the darkness to lose all will to command himself.
Now, I don't know if it happened exactly that way, because the darkness has sentience in this,
right?
The darkness, the entity, is what we're talking about.
The darkness, the entity. Yeah.
Or at least that's what is suggested in the Books of Sorrow. So it may just be that he transported himself to stand before the darkness. He and the darkness are good buds at this point, and he's just now using that as a method to then go next door to his ascendant realm.
I do like the idea of while you're fighting him, he just looks at you and goes, "Smoke bomb!" Boom! And slaps his chest and just disappears.
If ever there's a Destiny anime, I want to see that happen.
That's what's happening. Smoke bomb,
or even a machinima or something. But
yes.
So all that's left in our realm of Oryx is his sword, Willbreaker, which is a substantial trophy. Like that is the sword that destroyed entire civilizations, destroyed entire solar systems before meeting
over
us.
1 billion years.
Yeah.
Oryx is 1,000 years.
Eris shows up. She kind of dismantles his sword, or it crumbles, or I forget exactly what it is, but she takes a crystal out of it.
She goes up and boops it just like Mara did. Boop.
Boop.
And then it just disintegrates. Yeah.
And that crystal is then given to the Guardian, and the Guardian then does what we tend to do and makes a weapon out of it.
Yeah!
In
exotics
this case,
for everyone!
Yeah, in this case, one of the 3 exotic swords that were in Destiny 1. I think the only exotic swords that were in Destiny 1.
I believe so. I can't think of any other exotic swords that were in D1.
Yeah. So, but needless to say, so Eris has taken this crystal, but she knows that Oryx is not dead. He's been banished from our realm, but he still exists in his throne world, chilling, trying to amass his power until he can come back for round 2.
Well, and we even hear as much too when Eris is taking this crystal, because while she's taking this crystal, she's basically she's reading a letter that she has written to the Queen, in the narrative there.
Yes, she is. I was gonna see if I could find the exact dialogue. I don't know if Ishtar is going to have it or not.
That's okay.
Do-
We can just say, my queen, my queen, my queen, my plan, your plan, my plan, my queen. That's pretty much what she says.
That sounds pretty accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
God dang it.
This is more or less what happened. That's how I
pretty
remember
much what
it.
happened. Oh man. No
Okay.
such luck.
No such luck on that. But what we do have is a couple of other kind of bits and pieces that talk about us going now to his ascendant realm. So this is the lore card. Yes, lore card. Regicide. And
Ooh, the final mission.
yeah, it states, and so the king has been slain, driven out of our world. Eris and Ikora have already begun planning a way to assault the Ascendant Realm and end the threat of Oryx once and for all. The Guardian will lead that fire team, no doubt, once they have a chance to stop and breathe. In the meantime, we're leveraging all available hidden and awoken intelligence assets to understand the threat of the taken army left behind. The other members of the Vanguard have begun drawing up assault plans, and I have full faith and confidence we'll see this threat put to rest as well. This was a transmission from Commander Zavala to the Travelers Observatory, aka the speaker.
Yep.
So yeah, just that Eris and Ikora recognize that we're not done yet and are figuring out how to attack the Ascendant Realm. And that's exactly what we do. We participate in the King's Fall raid, which is us invading Oryx's Ascendant Plane, his throne world. We systematically kill off the last few bits of tribute that he has.
Kill off his daughters.
His daughters and the War Priest.
Oh my god, dude! If this thing does come back,
it's gotta.
Everyone loves Vault of Glass. Like whether you hate it or love it, you love it because it's the first, right? Like that's like everyone remembers their first. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Valentine's Day.
Demonetized.
Oh, dang it! So everyone remembers their first, which is Vault, and so when Vault came back, everyone was super excited. For my first wasn't Taken King, or my first gameplay was Taken King, but King's Fall Raid was just so good. Like that, I mean, mechanically, it was so much different with it the jumping puzzles in it and the mechanics of like it was very, very, very well done. So yeah, if it does, all signs are pointing to it coming back. We have no way of confirming or denying this, but all signs of everything that we've heard from Bungie through Twitter and all their previews of the next year of Destiny, it sounds like King's Fall is coming back, which
yeah,
I
would
I'm
be
stoked.
very surprised if it didn't.
Yeah,
and I very much looking forward to it. I think King's Fall, given the Vault of Glass treatment, where they tweak the encounters just enough to make them fresh,
just a little bit.
I think that would be wonderful. But again, not to get too off track here, but we go through the King's Fall raid. We kill the War Priest and the two daughters of Oryx, who are the creators of the Oversoul, which Crota used. And then we kill Oryx himself, having gotten rid of all of his tribute lines. He is the weakest he has ever been as Oryx. And then we untake light that he was storing in his realm to feed his Ascendant Hive. we
That concept is
untake
mind
it
blowing too.
and turn it into bombs, essentially.
Yeah.
That are then used to kill him. Which we talked a lot about that process in our Books of
Yep.
Sorrow, and kind of our thoughts on that. But yeah, is unprecedented at that point in the story.
Awesome. Awesome.
That we could ever do something like that.
Guardians make their own fate, baby.
Damn straight. So now the Taken King, Oryx, this big bad that Eris has been planning for and worrying about and gathering allies to fight for so long, is gone, is off the playing field. And she leads a couple of strikes, either she is the voiceover, or she, is providing the logistical support on a couple of strikes to remove a few contenders who might try and fill the throne of the Taken King with Oryx gone.
Because I was going to say, because that's always an issue in any type of army, especially to me, especially a religious-driven army. As soon as the head is cut off, the power vacuum happens.
Oh yes, yeah. That those missions culminate in the strikes for Alakul, the Dark Blade, which is still, I think, one of the most atmospheric and coolest.
Is that the one where you
strikes.
fight completely in dark?
Yeah, down in that dark pit, and he just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that one was awesome. And all you can see is his head, if that. Like, you can see his eyes, maybe, and then all the thralls start pouring in. Oh my god! Yeah, fantastic freaking mission.
That was another really good one. But so we dismantle any ability for any other Ascendant Hive to try and claim the throne. And Eris kind of sees her job as done. At least in regards to this, to fighting Oryx and Oryx's brood.
We also stopped the Cabal from blowing the thing up.
Yeah, that too.
Because that's what the Cabal did during this whole time. They slammed a ship into it. That was their way of, hey, we're going to put a transmat. No, they just slammed an entire ship into the side of it and was like, invade, go.
It's the most Cabal thing to do. Like
the most Cabal thing to do, right? Like, that is. And then the brothers come along and they rig up a bunch of explosives to essentially the core of the dreadnought, and they're like, we're just going to blow it up.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, the reason we stopped them was because it wasn't just going to blow it up; it was going to blow up and like the adjacent planets.
Yeah. Saturn would have been wiped off the map. Part of Europa probably would have been gone. Nessus, nope, that's out.
Yeah.
They go big or they go home. No, they go big or they die. They don't even go home.
Nope,
they just go big.
Never go home.
They are not allowed to go home.
So, Eris has made the decision to leave the tower after the events of Taken King, and the only person that she stops to say goodbye to is her good friend Asher Mir. And we have a lore card about that. Specifically, this is the Ghost Fragment lore card titled Eris Mourn, and it is as follows. Eris Mourn settled back into the chair, allowing the dark wisps of power she'd summoned to effortlessly flow from her back into the night. The green emanations from her shroud were stark against the darkness. Her face implacable. Eris regarded the awoken in the bed. His name was Asher Mir. Annoying, cantankerous, she had even seen Ikora Ray become exasperated in his presence. Her lips quirked, very slightly, upwards. A kindred spirit, if she'd ever had one. Her smile died as her gaze slid to his side, His warlock garb had been stripped from his body, and she could see his pale blue chest as it rose and fell in the bed. His arm was gone. In its place was a thing. The point where mechanicals knit with flesh was ghastly to behold, but the design was unmistakable to any guardian who'd been in the field. Asher Mir's arm was that of a Vex construct. She stood and stepped to the side of the bed. Her voice was gentle, quiet, but its timbre filled the still air of the room. "I am leaving, my old friend." The man in the bed did not stir. "Soon I will take my leave of this." She put her hands up to take in the med bay, the city, the tower, Earth. This lie. She placed a gloved hand on the back of his blue flesh and bone hand. "I wish we could have spoken, you and I, one last time. But my story here is done. I have avenged those I lost. I must find a new path through the night. The Hive are vast and ancient, a power from far beyond our realm. If we are ever truly to face them, ever truly to put an end to their hate, I must step beyond the safety of the city. Be safe, Jensam Scribe. A storm is coming, and I will not be at your side when it finds its way to our shores." And so ends that lore card.
Well, that was bonerific. That was hot. Jesus.
I mean,
Happy Valentine's Day, Eris and Asher. Holy shit.
if you say so, he's unconscious from half turning into a Vex, and she's like piecing out of his life.
Okay, I took that as a moment of like they had just made love and she was leaving him, but then you said med bay and
you took things very, very wrong.
Screw that. This is a Valentine's Day episode. They totally did it.
I mean, you believe what you want to.
And instead of buying him flowers, she brought him an arm.
God damn it.
Yeah, what's up?
So what's actually happening, not in Zora's fan fiction world, is she is
my fan fiction world is naughty.
She is visiting one of her only, people that she felt a kinship with, a kindred spirit.
I still think she's part awoken.
She may very well be. I would not be surprised at all, honestly.
With how much connection she has with all of the awoken that we know that she has connections with, I think she's part awoken.
I think it would make a lot of sense. I don't know we're ever gonna know unless she takes her hood off at some point.
Ooh, maybe we get a special Valentine's Day episode with Eris.
No.
God damn it.
Let's not.
Let's not. We'll keep that rule 34 in my own head.
where it shall stay forever and
where it shall stay forever and ever.
To never see the light of day.
Never ever.
So she's peacing out. She's leaving. She says,
Yep.
I have nothing left to accomplish here. But I know that the Hive are not just going to disappear. I know there's more to them than what we have seen. And I need to go find that out. And I can't do that here.
Yep.
Now, I do find that last line particularly interesting. So, a storm is coming, and I will not be at your side when it finds its way to our shores. Now, this is the time period that this dialogue is happening is prior to D2. This is
right
after Taken King, which makes me wonder which storm is she talking about? Was she talking
Right.
about Gaul? Did she somehow know that Gaul was on his way? I kind of doubt it, just because how and why would she not have warned somebody if that were the case?
Yep.
I wonder if she wasn't talking about Savathun, if she wasn't talking about the fact that she knows Oryx has sisters and that they're
I think
just
that's
as
what it is.
powerful, if not more so than him, and like inevitably they're gonna come for us too.
So I think it's more that mainly because as like another thing that happened during the Taken King campaign was we were going through collecting those calcified fragments, right? Like the
Yes,
calcified ghost
yeah.
fragments, and all those were the books of sorrows that we covered. And in doing so, obviously Eris had to have read the decryptions on it or helped with the decryptions on them.
So
And
I wanna say something, but it's kind of spoilers.
oh no.
For the collector's edition.
Oh, then you gotta hold on.
Oh, it's so relevant though.
I love you, and we will cover it next week. I promise.
For those that have the collector's edition, I highly, highly, highly recommend reading the journal that came with it and looking for connections to the things we just talked about.
God damn it! Just send me my shit, Bungie. Grrr!
Zor doesn't have his yet, so
I don't have mine yet.
Hence the salt.
Yes. God, you suck. Now I don't even know what I was going to talk about. Keep going.
So no, you were saying
calcified fragments.
Eris
so she
translated.
So she,
yeah.
She absolutely, I think, helped translate that, and damn it, which then helped us build the touch of. She helped us build the touch of malice. Like she helped us capture that portion of essence, or that essence of Oryx, and put it in the gun. So she, in doing so, and translating that, she knows he has sisters. She knows all of it. Like all the books of sorrow was those calcified fragments, and so to have all that information readily available, like that's where she like something bigger is coming. And so I definitely think she's referring to either Savathun or Zero Wrath. I think Savathun, because Savathun definitely seems like the bigger player between the three sisters. So yeah, I think she's referring to Savathun.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of that, the fact that she was translating the books of sorrow at the same time. She may not have known that there was anything beyond Oryx until she translated them and then went, oh shit, there's so
two
much more out there. We need to be prepared. I need to figure out like more about the hive to be able to fight them. I think that tracks really well. So,
especially what little secrets are in the collector's edition. me.
You'll find out. It's okay.
I hope so. I hope this thing shows up this week. I'm gonna be very sad if it doesn't show up till like July. Continue.
Yeah. So, at this point in time,
note to anyone ordering stuff from Bungie Store: if you pre-order something, pre-order it by itself so it ships by itself. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
That is good advice.
As Mystic Penguin has told me, I am making assumptions, and we know what that does. Back to the story.
Okay. So
we also get a mission for Black Spindle.
Oh, yeah.
Or Black Hammer.
During Forsaken we did?
No.
Or during Taken King we did?
Absolutely. Because one of the exotic, so during Taken King came the first iteration of it. Then when
the first iteration came from Crota.
Ooh, maybe it did.
I think. Let me look here.
Maybe the first iteration came from Crota, and the second iteration came from Taken King.
I think the Black Spindle was. Yeah. Okay. So the Black Hammer was a random loot drop in Crota's End.
In Crota.
It was a legendary sniper rifle.
Yep.
And I don't know if it had it had white nail.
Yeah.
Which is
Yep.
which is why they kind of sunset it.
Fucking
Before
broken.
sunsetting was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they brought it back as an exotic, which was the black spindle.
Yep.
And
Because
yes,
that one you had to
was
wait for
from the Taken King.
you had to wait. I was going to say it was the daily heroic mission where the whole place turns black and you've got to race back to the beginning. And as you're racing back, you have to unlock the hive of essentially lock the doors behind you, and you've got to unlock them and get back to that spot. And there's a fallen door that you have to get to and get through that door in a certain amount of time to start kind of like a side mission there, which would then net you the black spindle, which is now in D2 as the Whisper of the Worm.
Yep. Yeah, so we also created that hive weapon, I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah, but after this point, Eris just disappears. We never see her again in Destiny 1. And actually we never see her for a good portion of the beginning of Destiny 2 either.
I was going to say there's some lore entries or not lore entries, there's some dialogue entries in D1, like when you're doing the arms strike dealer or the arms dealer strike, at the end of it, there's a little interaction with Cade and talking about rocks and maps and stuff like that. And all he does, he just kind of sighs and he's like, "Oh, I miss Eris." And so yeah, she literally just disappears until Shadowkeep.
Yeah, until Shadowkeep. There's another dialogue with Ikora. I don't remember exactly where it comes from. I think it's from one of the missions on like Titan. It might have been a strike, but I don't. Yeah, you know what? I think it was the Savathun song strike. Now that I think about it, maybe not. Regardless, it's a dialogue.
I still feel like that strike needs to be. I understand the whole like darkness has taken Titan and it's been vaulted, but I think that strike, because Savathun is the big baddie coming, I think that they need to have some sort of explanation of that strike, because that strike explains a lot of things of how Savathun has access to light.
Yeah, a lot of the theory crafting around how she does what she does for Witch Queen, at least as far as we know, centers around things learned in that strike. So I would love to see them bring that back in some capacity. I think they're probably just going to explain the same things we learned from that strike in a different place. But no, so what I was getting at, there's a dialogue from Ikora, something along the lines of, I wish we could have this studied by Eris Mourn. I'm sure you'll meet her someday, or something along those lines.
Yep.
Which was a dialogue that, if I recall correctly, really annoyed everyone because it didn't have a veteran dialogue option. So she acted like everybody had never met Eris Mourn before. Like we'd never even
heard of Ikora. Yeah.
So
which is directly contradictory to a scannable in the tower. There's a scannable above, like way up high, above the ramen shop that you can scan, and it even says like, I wonder where Eris Mourn has gotten up to these days. So needless to say, the storytelling in Destiny from the end of Destiny 1 and even parts of the parts of Destiny 1 as a whole into like the first year or so of Destiny 2, it's kind of fucky.
A little bit.
Not a lot of people were on the same page there as like what stories are being told.
But thankfully, when Eris does return to the forefront in Shadowkeep, things are much more solid narratively.
Yes.
Or at least are beginning the process of really forming what we have now as a story. So in Shadowkeep, we are introduced to Eris, who has found herself.
Real quick. So to give a timeline of this, so she disappears at the end of Taken King. The entirety of Rise of Iron happens. So the entire thing about Siva and the Iron Lords and all of that.
Mhm.
Then the entirety of Gaul happens. Gaul invades the city. We defeat Gaul. Then the entirety of Curse of Osiris and Warmind happen. So we go to Mercury. We find the whole Infinite Force thing, and Osiris is like, "Hey, I'm back, bro. Panoptites, whatever crazy Greek mythic thing." Dude, I'm telling you, they've got some Greek intern there, or Greek mythology intern, that's just like, "Hey, how do I use my?" And this is it.
There's more Greek phrases in the collector's edition.
Oh, damn it!
Not related to Panoptes, but I'm just saying that same intern is also
Nope.
writing things for the CE.
Nope. My hands are crossed, my arms are folded, and I'm refusing to finish this episode till I get my collector's edition.
Well, I can't do anything about it, so.
So the events of Curse of Osiris happen. The events of Warmind happen. We go to Mars. We help Anna Bray discover her past and connect back with Rasputin. And then we canonically lose Charlemagne. Whatever. Then all of Forsaken happens. The prison break at the prison of Elters. Cade dies to the hands of Uldren. Uldren dies to the hands of us. We kill Riven. The whole taken thing happens with the Awoken City and the battery and Coria and all that jazz. Then the season of the Forge happened, which was the entirety of and we covered her, one of our past episodes. # go check out 801 episodes.
Yep, we've got the whole Black Armory history.
Yep. So the Black Armory comes to the forefront. So I mean, tons of events are happening.
Yeah,
while
it's been a long time.
Eris is just kind of AFK. Like,
yeah, if we assume that the game world advances at the same rate as the real world, then it's been like 3
years,
maybe 4 years, 3.5, something like that.
Because then there was the season of the Drifter, and then the season of Opulence where Callus comes back and was like, "Hey." Or not Callus, the Leviathan we unlock the corrupted portion of the Leviathan that's been taken over by the crown of sorrow, which also ties into Savathun.
Also ties into
Savathun. Please,
Savathun?
for the love of God, tell me there's something in the collector's edition.
My lips are sealed.
Fuck you! Fuck you! You're no longer my Valentine's. Heartbroken.
I mean, shouldn't your wife be your Valentine?
No! She's my lover. You get to be my Valentine's, but no more.
Well, I'll just have to live with that, I guess.
Hope to God nobody heard that excuse me from across the house.
But so it's been some time, and now we enter Shadowkeep, and Shadowkeep starts off with a cutscene of Eris, who is on the moon, in the catacombs, and now some of the information I have here I could not validate at another source, but was listed in the Destinypedia site.
Okay.
Usually they're pretty good about their stuff, but I couldn't find any specific references to some of the things that are said here, but they make logical sense. So Eris is on the moon. They credit her reason for being on the moon as her stone, or her Ahamkara bone, has started whispering to her again. It's been silent apparently for quite some time, and it's now started whispering, and those whispers are what tell her to go back to the moon and lead her through the catacombs until she discovers a dormant pyramid ship. The discovery of this ship.
Yeah. Insert darkness sound.
Yeah. The discovery of this ship kicks off a couple of things. And I'm a little fuzzy on the exact order of events here, because I found a couple different theories that seem to all contradict each other.
Okay. We'll go through them one at a time then, and see where we can. I'll insert my knowledge where my memory decides to kick in.
Okay, so one theory is that the discovery of this ship, of this pyramid ship, wakes up whatever vestige of the darkness is in it, and that is what makes the hive of the hidden swarm, who are led by Crota's surviving daughters, which is Hashladun and Desirith.
Hashlatag.
Yeah.
Hashlatag, Hashladun.
I like that. Hashlatag.
Ever since it came across her, she was like Hashladun, and I instantly, like, the very first time I heard it, it clicked with Hashlatag, and so I'm like, all right, well, that's canon now.
So the one theory is that, like, these daughters have been on the moon, kind of in hiding with what's left of Crota's brood of hive.
I mean, with how well we dismantled his hive, like, I would not. I would not. I would think that they would want to stay hidden there. Like
right.
I wouldn't want to come out of hiding myself if I just seen what had happened to my Crota, because Crota is Hashladun's father, as well as who's the other one you named?
Desirith.
He's their father.
Yes. Yep.
So that's part of his. That's not necessarily part of his tribute line, but for all intents and purposes, part of his tribute line as well. That had just stayed hidden. Like, they're like, nope, we're just going to cut ourselves off and not be found and killed by this thing that is killing all of our other friends and stuff.
Yep, they had burrowed way down into the depths of Luna and very intentionally hid themselves away with the surviving members of his brood, as far as the thrall and acolytes and such. But the theory is that they were in hiding and were remaining in hiding until the darkness ship woke up, per se, and that then not only gave them they saw it as a sign, but also the hive, and this is true because we see it happen in game, learned that they were able to manipulate the nightmares that the ship created from after it woke up. And they saw that as an opportunity to, use it as a weapon against the guardians that had killed Crota. Okay. And that is why they then, the Scarlet Keep was built, and they started becoming a known presence on the moon.
Okay.
The other theory that I heard that or that I was able to find that I personally think makes a lot of sense, and I want to find the supporting lore cards for it. I just was not able to. I'm sure I feel like they're out there. Is
sure
very similar, but that the construction of the Scarlet Keep was not related to the discovery of the pyramid ship. It was related to Savathun convincing Hashladun and Desirith that if they created the Scarlet Keep, that it would draw in the guardians and act as a trap for them, that they could then, remove, again, to exact vengeance on those that killed Crota.
Okay.
That makes more sense to me in the grand scheme of things, because Savathun at this time is still saying she's aligned with the hive, still saying she's aligned with the darkness. But she very clearly at this point and prior to this point has been trying to find a way out of the pact with her worm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it would make a lot of sense if she didn't want a major hive presence on a nearby planet after she had dispatched her worm that the darkness could send after her.
Sure.
So this may have been a way for her to be like, you know what, let's just take all the leadership of the hive that is left on the moon off the board. and just not have to worry about them. And I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to convince them on a way that is going to pit them against the Guardians, my other main enemy.
The one thing that was able to kill Crota and Oryx.
Yeah, and like if the Guardians win, hey, that gets rid of these two. If by some miracle they happen to kill the Guardians, then that's still a win for me. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
That's an interesting theory there. I like
for
that.
Savathun to have orchestrated this.
So I'm going to present a little bit of evidence to help support that in the way of cutscenes.
Okay.
The Vidoc we saw last week saw parts of the Scarlet Keep being changed to white. And I think they even talk about Savathun using the Scarlet Keep as possible. And maybe it wasn't the devs talking about it. Maybe it was a breakdown video that I was watching of Aztecross's. Hashtag if you don't know Aztecross, go check him out. He's pretty cool. He talks about how like the Scarlet Keep stuff is turning white, where it's that white citadel stuff of Savathun's throne world. And so I'm curious if there is something. I think we're going to see something there that directly relates to that theory of the Scarlet Keep was built because Savathun convinced them to do it, and either way the battle went, it was a win for her. She didn't care one way or another. I like that idea. I think the pyramid ship was completely coincidental there, because like if I think about the events that happen, we work our way down into the lower depths, and we come across this catacomb, come across this cavern with a pyramid ship sitting inside, and however long that pyramid ship has been there, like, do we have any type of time frame on how long it's been there?
We don't. I think Ikora makes mention of it, of her theorizing that it's been there since the collapse, but I don't know that we have any confirmation one or the other. What I did find confirmation on is the Savathun theory.
Okay.
So I guess I just didn't Google the right things before when I was doing research, or who knows. But so this is from the Apocrypha lore cards, which come from the Inquisition of the Damned lore book. And I know this isn't exactly Eris specific.
I was going to say, we've kind of like fucked the rails on Eris on this one. Like,
but it's very relevant to Shadowkeep, and Shadowkeep is all about Eris. And this actually implies a lot more.
I'll allow it then.
Than what I thought was going on here. So, in Apocrypha, it states, "It is time you and your siblings stood on your own. The swarm, the hive, need no prince, no king. They need strength. Be that strength. Rise the crimson spire. Signal your coming. Challenge the light. And when the heroes come to condemn your proclamation of sovereignty and conquest, I offer this gift, the essence of your fallen champion. I know you question my motives, but we are sisters of a kind and bound by blood. And this gift will be one of many. Use it. Birth a ravager to protect all you hope to build." And
so those essences are the nightmare essences. She's directly telling him, "Hey, so here's an essence of Crota. Here's an essence of Gaul. Everything that we fight as a nightmare, she has, and she basically starts feeding them essences of and saying, manifest, go."
Yeah. So not only is she specifically telling them, like, yes, build the Crimson Spire, proclaim your sovereignty against the light, and let them come to you. And then when they do, use these against them. So they, the Crimson Swarm, they never figured out how to manipulate these nightmares. Savathun taught them how to manipulate these nightmares.
So I think the pyramid ship being there was not necessarily purely coincidental, but they definitely helped. It definitely helped them feed the nightmares. Like whatever darkness essence that was there, they were able to help channel into these nightmares and manifest them in a real world, or in a our reality as a weapon. Like you said, like to directly challenge us, the Guardian, and to fight us, and win or lose, Savathun wins either way.
Yeah, and we know hive rituals are not magic. They're mostly just ways for them to make requests of the darkness to do things for them.
And if there's a pyramid ship there, now here's something I don't know that we've ever directly connected, and maybe I'm just the not seeing the forest for the trees type thing. Do we know that the pyramid ships are directly tied to darkness?
I think we can infer that, because
that's what I'm getting at.
Well,
is this a theory or is this fact?
I think it's pretty much fact. Like, the only time we ever hear the darkness speak to us, the entity speak to us through our ghost, is inside a pyramid ship.
Yep. At the end of the Shadowkeep campaign.
Yes.
When they say we are not your friend, we're not your enemy, we are your salvation.
Additionally, the ziggurat that holds stasis, which is a power of darkness, came from a pyramid ship.
We absolutely.
Found the relic that then links to the sister relic in the Garden of Salvation in a pyramid ship. Like, there's a whole lot of dark things happening for them not to be related. Is kind of where we're at.
And that's ultimately what I'm partially playing the Savathun card, like, okay, well, what if doubt? But I'm also kind of like trying to get this definitive thing of, like, we always talk about the pyramids as being the dark and the traveler being the light. Like, these are very much the vessels of darkness and light. And the fact that we only have, or at least now, we only have one traveler, but there are thousands of pyramid ships. Like, we've seen hundreds of, at the end of the Gaul campaign, when the traveler awakens and explodes with light to break the cage, that expands out into the universe, engulfing the reef, engulfing the moon, engulfing Mars, and these are all places that we visit, and then eventually reaching clear out way past the heliopause, and then washes over a set of pyramid ships that then turn and start heading our direction. Which assumedly had laid dormant because the traveler was dormant. Like, that's all these things are assumptions, and we're inferring stuff, and we're implying stuff, and we're the pieces are there, but we have not had a definitive, the darkness is the pyramid ships.
Well, I think it's inaccurate to say the darkness is the pyramid ships. I think it's more accurate to say that the darkness uses the pyramid ships.
Okay.
The way that I view
that's a better. I like that.
The way that I have chosen to view it, based on the lore that's available to us and our own theories, is that the darkness, the entity, is a sentience that has complete control over darkness, the force.
Yes.
And I view the pyramid ships purely as weapons of the darkness, the entity. I don't think the pyramid ships are manned. I think it literally controls them. The pyramids are just tools. Darkness, the entity, controls them and uses them as a conduit to speak to other things near them, but they themselves are not sentient things.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense too. And so I'm going to loop this kind of back to Eris as well.
Mm-hmm.
The entire season of arrivals. Because as far as Shadowkeep is concerned, we don't see anything come of that with Eris. Like, obviously we go through and we find all of her not tributes, but like artifacts from her fire team. Right? Like, we go find Waning's shield cloth or whatever, and I want to say we find Toland's journal. I think that's one of the things we go find.
I don't think that's an artifact that we find.
It's not okay.
We receive it. We absolutely do get Toland's journal, but I think we receive it from Eris.
Okay.
Who had been holding
because it's on the table, like there were weekly missions, and I don't think they're weekly anymore. That went through and unlocked all this stuff.
So before we get too deep into the weeds there, because I do want to talk about those artifacts at least a little bit. Less
Okay,
so us
so we'll talk
obtaining
about
them
those, and then
more
remind
what
me.
they accomplish.
Okay, so we'll talk about those, and then once we get through those, remind me that we need to loop back to Season of the Arrival, because
So I have arrivals.
That's where I'm going to connect this darkness thing with pyramids and Eris.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of breeze over Shadowkeep in broad strokes, in the interest of time, as well as just because not all of it was directly related to her.
Right.
So yeah, Eris finds this pyramid. We know now that Savathun orchestrated the construction of the Scarlet Keep and the ability to summon and maybe not summon, but at least control the nightmares that the pyramid's power produces. Our guardian is dispatched to the moon to investigate. We discover the pyramid and encounter phantoms of our previous foes. Eris teleports us out with hive magic. Eris explains what the phantoms are. They're nightmares created from the energies of the pyramid and being controlled by the hive through rituals, which we see in-game as the Altar of Sorrow. Eris believes that the way to put an end to the hive ability to control these and discover more about the darkness is to enter the pyramid itself. She theorizes, clearly, if the hive are controlling these nightmares, they have a way to insulate themselves from the dark, the dark energies that are emanating in order to control them. And that we need to investigate these rituals and find out how they're doing it so we can kind of reverse engineer that. In that investigation, we come across Hashladun, who we then track down to the top of the Scarlet Keep and kill her. In the process of that strike, and the story mission that goes along with it, Eris learns that the method that the hive were using to be immune to the pyramid energies is powered by something called a hive cryptoglyph. We, the Guardian, are then tasked with finding and stealing that cryptoglyph from the moon catacombs. And in doing so,
acquiring.
Yeah, tactically acquiring. And in doing so, we slay Bezerith, who is the last remaining... Desirith, who is the last remaining daughter of Crota. So we have, at this point, completely eliminated the hive kind of leadership on the moon and acquired this cryptoglyph, which Eris then is able to use to craft weapons and armor for us that are resistant to the pyramid energy. Once we have a full set of...
They actually react in game. Like if you have one of the not the Dreambane armor, I don't think, but the weapons themselves, the moon weapons that you get from the cryptoglyph, they have little like I call them Eris symbols, like little Eris charms. They're little squares with
the little charms on
X. Yep. Those will actually start glowing in game if you get near a nightmare.
Yeah, which is really cool. I haven't paid attention if they glow when you get close to the pyramid. That would be cool. I think that would make sense.
We may have some testing to do this week.
May have to try that out. But so we're armed with this.
I may not have to go craft one of those weapons
that
first.
Makes us
actually dismantled all of them.
Well, they're not all sunset anymore, so at least you'll get something.
This is true.
But now that we have this immunity armor with us, we go forth and enter the pyramid. Thinking ourselves immune, but surprise, surprise, our ghost is not wearing any of this armor. And so our ghost gets taken over, and I
never even thought of that until literally this moment of you mentioning it. I always try to figure out why is our ghost being invaded. He is the only thing not wearing something protective. There is no Dreambane ghost shell. Oh my god.
I would love to see them put the Dreambane ghost shell in game and then have us like redo that mission and get different results. That would be cool. It's not going to happen, but it'd be cool.
Bold thinking, Cotton.
But so we enter the pyramid. The darkness talks to us. The entity, the winnower, talks to us through our ghost as the conduit. We get the cutscene of, we are your salvation, and we retrieve
Specifically
an
in
artifact.
the garden.
Yeah, in the garden, the Black Garden. We get a vision of us standing there with our doppelganger, who is the winnower. And they tell us that they're coming to get us, essentially, and that they're only trying to save us.
I was going to say, not coming to get us. The darkness is very much. I never look at the darkness as like this big bad coming to get us, right? Like it.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Even in that scene, it's very much like they say, we're not your friend, we're not your enemy, we are your salvation. Like but I mean, it's interesting to think of that logic in itself and think, well, their version of salvation for us is ending our connection with the light, which would essentially kill us.
Yes. I mean, we've talked about it before. We and actually Fickrell, who is, has a connection to the darkness as a Scorn, says it as well. Like we are a dead thing.
You are a dead thing.
We are something that should not be continuing to exist because we already didn't prove our right to exist.
Yep. And so that's an interesting thought too, that like, depending on what point of view you're looking at it from, it is not a win. The darkness isn't winning, or we're not losing. It's the whole idea of it's a salvation. We're being released from this prison. So that's man. These writers are something else, man.
They're good. They're good at this kind of like nuanced. And they've said it in the Vidoc now, and they've said it in the lore, and very much it's like, this is not a light is good, dark is bad story.
Yeah.
There's a lot more nuance here, and I love that they're really starting to explore that.
And Eris very much, I mean, throughout all of everything, has very much stated as such.
Oh yeah.
That darkness isn't necessarily bad. And even through like Season of the Lost, we get little interactions when you're doing the I can't think of the activity now. Astral alignment. Where Ikora is talking to the Queen, and she's like, seems like Eris is the only one that's on board with this idea that darkness isn't so bad. Like maybe she's right, type thing. Like I love that.
So as I say, we enter the pyramid. We discover an artifact there that is broadcasting a signal of some kind, which we bring back to Eris to study, and she notes that this artifact whispers. Shortly after we acquire this artifact, the Vex begin to flood the moon from a portal that leads to the Black Garden. We, as the Guardian, investigate. We kill the Vex minds responsible for this invasion that are within the garden. And in doing so, we discover a similar artifact to the one from the pyramid. This is the Garden of Salvation raid, by the way.
Yep.
And at the end of the raid, you go to the final chest, and it is in front of a darkness statue. And the statue is holding, I believe, an artifact that is exactly the same as the one that we found in the pyramid. And us touching the artifact in the Garden of Salvation activates the one that Eris is studying, and it starts to emit a message of some sort, which Eris mostly says we should just ignore. Like these are just trickeries of the dark. It's not something we should, by giving it our attention, we are playing into their hand, so it's best to just ignore it.
Hey, this thing we just found started talking to us. Oh yeah, fuck that thing. What?
So, despite Eris's warnings to us, she continues to transcribe. She continues to take messages from it, and try and understand what this signal is.
Oh, fuck that. What's that thing you're talking to? Oh, nothing. No, it's just giving me stuff and junk. Here, let me write. And she's like, I can imagine her like you're trying to talk to her. And she's like got her finger up to you, like 1 second, hang on. Okay, this says. Okay, I'm sorry. What were you saying? Oh no, wait. It's talking again. Oh, but don't listen to it. No, fuck that thing. No, it's not important. It's not important. Why are you writing messages about it? I don't know. Just hold on a second.
Yeah.
Kill all the guardians. Okay, gotcha. Boop.
Can see this one of two ways. Or at least from my perspective, we can see this as one of two ways. This is Eris trying to protect us, and her her character and her personality, I think, is very much one of self-sacrifice. And I could see
let me have the burden so the guardian can live on and continue on. Yeah, I like that idea.
Exactly. A like you, I'm going to tell you not to worry about it. I'm going to keep you at arm's length from it because I'm going to be the one to take this on, and then I don't have to worry about something happening to you like what happened to my fire team.
I like that theory.
And that's kind of what I choose to subscribe to as well.
I mean, it beats, hey, what is that thing? No, fuck that thing.
Yeah. So Eris is studying this, though, and gets more and more and more kind of enthralled with the whispers that she's hearing from this artifact. And she wants to know more, and she's trying to figure out, like, more information. She needs more information to connect this all back to the winnower and figure out what it's trying to tell us so that we can be forewarned. And what she does is if you, the player, go through and collect all of the mementos from her old fire team in the series of weekly missions that we talked about before, she that helps rid her of the phantoms, the nightmares that are kind of haunting her. And once she has all of the once she has all of the mementos, I did not realize this, and I need to go back and look at the cutscene to see if it's visible. But supposedly, from what I could find,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
She wears those mementos as her own Dreambane armor to enter the pyramid herself.
She sure as fuck does.
Okay. So
I remember it.
She's in the pyramid herself. She's doing what we did, essentially, goes into the pyramid. She touches the altar. Artifact in hand. She touches the altar at the center of the pyramid. And for a brief moment, we see a little bit of a I don't want to say spark, but I think this is her unlocking the ability to use stasis is what we're seeing.
Absolutely. 100%. I 100% see that. As in retrospect, I see that now. Like at the time, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is happening? Yeah. Is she giving into the darkness? Like, what is going on? And because she has that little like smile, that little half smile out of the corner of her mouth when she turns around at the end of that scene. But that is 100% her finding a way to use powers again, to have some sort of powers to combat the great storm that is coming. And that right there was the beginning of stasis. So we had stasis previewed to us before stasis was previewed to us.
In a way, it was a very brief, like, little blue glow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's her realizing that, like, she doesn't have to be on the sidelines anymore necessarily.
That she doesn't have to be on the sidelines, and that light or dark doesn't matter. There's worse things out there that actually have a definitive, like, everything needs to die mentality.
So here's a fun little question, though. So she learns about, presumably she learns about stasis and goes to find it via communications from this artifact. So the question becomes, was
who's
that
leading who?
Well, a little bit. And was that artifact meant for her to discover and decrypt and find stasis, or was that artifact meant for us? And the darkness wanted our guardian to have stasis well before we actually got it.
Okay, so you know where that leads me to, right?
Where?
That leads me to Season of the Arrivals. and the darkness
All right.
trying to talk to us again, and Savathun going, no, don't talk to the darkness. I'm going to interfere. And the interference missions.
Yep.
Darkness bad, stasis bad, you bad. Because I think Savathun knows that once we start getting access to darkness abilities, there will be nothing that can stop us. If we can successfully wield the light and the dark without succumbing to either one, we are gods.
And I it's interesting. So there's a couple things that I wonder about. The first being, was she interfering with our communications with the darkness purely out of fear? And if so, if that was her main motivation, was to keep us from becoming more powerful, why does she not seem all that concerned after we've gained stasis?
Ooh.
Like maybe that's a play. What I'm wondering is if
or
she's
maybe stasis
running...
is how she's able to corrupt us.
Well, I don't know that stasis is how she's able to corrupt us, but I'm thinking that she... Okay, so
do we need to get our big boy tinfoil hats on?
There's a lot of theory here. I'm gonna dance on the edge of some spoilers if I am allowed.
I hate you. I hate you. I will mute you. I swear to God.
So okay, I'll be as obtuse as possible in regards to that.
Okay.
But a lot of this is stuff we already know. So
now I just have a vision of you sitting reclined in a chair, being an obtuse angle, right, with your arms straight up and your legs straight out, and the bend happening at your waist, but it's not a full bend. And then like a few seconds later, you're like, now I'm being acute, and you're trying to like touch your toes, where it's
this is not
angle.
an episode of Family Guy.
No. Or am I being obtuse now? Nope. Now you're being acute.
So Savathun is interrupting these messages. At the time we assumed because she didn't want us to be talking to the darkness, or didn't want us to be able to receive what the darkness was trying to tell us.
Sure.
However, let's apply some very basic psychology here.
All right.
If you have a kid or a younger sibling, in my case,
oh shit,
the very first thing that they do when you tell them, "Hey, don't touch that,"
don't do that,
is go touch it.
That's
so
fucked
I
up
do
as
wonder.
Shit.
And
that would be her thing. That would be Savathun's thing,
right?
Like that would be the hive god of trickery, saying, "Hey, don't fuck with this stuff. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. What are you doing? Quit touching it. All right, I told you not to touch it, and now you're touching it. What the hell?"
Yeah. The stove's hot. I'm telling you, it's hot. Don't. Oh, look, you burned yourself. Yep.
You burned yourself. Sucks to suck, doesn't it? What did I tell you? The stove is hot.
So I would not be surprised if her trying to interfere.
I love that.
Was just really her reverse psychologying us to get us to invest more in it.
I mean, what does she do the entire season of Lost? She just eggs us on the entire time.
Mm-hmm. So the other big thing about Arrivals, outside of Savathun's interference or attempted interference, is that we discover on Io, or Eris discovers, and we come to her aid, a tree of silver wings, which has sprouted. And interestingly, in the very first mission where we discover this tree of silver wings and we come to Eris's aid, there's a seed at the base of the tree of silver wings, and Eris can't touch it, which I find very interesting.
I was
she
going to say
physically
that's kind
can't touch it.
I didn't realize that.
She tries to take it, and she says to our guardian that it has rejected her, and that our guardian will need to pick it up.
Interesting.
And the seed is also the vessel by which she receives messages from the darkness after we deal with Savathun every week to get rid of her interference. And I wonder
So is this seed from darkness, or is this seed from Savathun?
Well, I don't think the seed's from Savathun. I think the Tree of Silver Wings, if I recall correctly, the only other reference to a Tree of Silver Wings is in the garden, and I don't mean the Black Garden, I mean the Garden of the Flower game. Pre the start of the universe.
Yeah.
If that's the case, perhaps
then it's got to be directly from the darkness or from the light.
Well, perhaps it's both, because the tree sprouted on Io, which was the last place the light touched, and specifically it sprouts in the cradle,
the cradle of it
is where the like remnants of the light of the traveler are most concentrated.
Oh man.
And so what I'm wondering is if both light and dark are required to make a Tree of Silver Wings sprout from its seed, and if so, like the pyramid on Io and the remnant light are what caused it to I think germinate is the correct term, from the seed that had been planted there by presumably Osiris, which I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now.
I think it was.
And what that also might mean is that Eris can't touch it because Eris doesn't have both anymore. She only has dark at this point. She only has stasis.
This is a theory, and I think it has legs.
Whereas we, the Guardian, even if we're not wielding stasis at that point, we have the capacity for both.
Oh my god!
And so,
dude, that
we can touch it.
Oh man, that's a theory that has legs. I like that theory. I think that's exactly what's happening there during the season of Rivals.
So there's a couple of different messages that we get from the darkness via Eris transcribing them. And I think that there's a couple, or there's one in particular that in relation, there's a bunch of good info in that, but in relation to Eris specifically, I think there's one in particular that really stands out to me. And that is called The Singular Exegate, is the book, and the entry is called Eggshell. And it reads as such. Report by Van Net Encrypted Router. The bird cannot fly until it leaves the eggshell. The enemy continues to suggest that we must abandon the traveler. This is a good sign. It would not need to entice us if it could destroy us without effort. Personal notes scored in hive leather with a knife. There is danger in this traffic with the pyramid. Kwangxiang's logs make that plain, but I must continue. I must continue. What worth have I ever been except that I know the enemy? More worth, Mara would remind me. I am more than my uses. So, what bird would we become if we left the traveler behind? There are obvious examples. We might survive as raiders on the edge. We might abandon our humanity for machines. We might rise up in war and build an empire. Yet none of these can be the answer. Fallen, Vex, Cabal, and Hive all covet the traveler. They have not left it behind. If all things beyond the traveler's protection fall under the sovereignty of darkness, not because they serve it, but because they are obedient to its law, then to leave the traveler would be to join the enemy. There would be no other way. Even so, I am proof otherwise. I move between. There is not only gray between black and white. All the colors are there. Am I not necessary? I would be lost without those who led me back to the light. But if I had not been there to guide them down into the dark, they would all be dead. Who would we become if we were all like Eris Mourn? And that's the end of that.
Dude.
So there's
I
a lot to unpack there.
holy fucking shit, dude. Like there's sword logic in there. There's oh my god, dude.
So I like a couple of implications. So
this is fucking my mind up right now. Like this, I may need to go back and read some of these things.
Yes, I think the Arrivals has a lot of lore that people were very interested in when it came out, absolutely, but we have so much more context now that I think a lot of it's going to read very differently going back to it now.
Absolutely.
But so the message from the darkness in this particular entry for this week, eggshell, is that the bird cannot fly until it leaves the eggshell. Eris seems to be taking that as kind of a literal metaphor. I guess that's kind of an oxymoron. As a very on the nose metaphor of the eggshell is the traveler, the bird is us. We cannot fly and be free so long as we are, subservient to the traveler,
shackled to the traveler's light.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a good point, though. She says, if it's trying to get us to stop, if it's trying to entice us away from the traveler, then that means that there's a reason why it's trying to entice us away. Like if it could just get rid of us and not care, then it would. But it would
just come after us and kill us.
Right, but the fact that it's trying to draw us away means that there's an inherent danger in staying with the traveler, or inherent danger to the darkness with us staying with the traveler.
Which has there's a lot of implications there, right? Like the thought of a binary fight, right? If I'm not part of the enemy, if I'm not part of the ally, I'm instantly part of the enemy. Like that's a very binary thinking, but that's sword logic, like. Whatever I defeat, I defeat it because I am stronger than it, and if something else defeats me, that thing is stronger, and I do not deserve to exist anymore because of that thing.
Right.
Like, whereas the light is very much this harmony amongst all things, like this perversion of the sword logic, and it's a non-binary thinking, right? Like it's the opposite. It's what if infinite thinking, right? Like what if. Oh man.
So
holy shit, man.
There's a few other pieces of this that I think are worth pointing out. So she makes an interesting correlation here. We see a little bit of Eris's personality shine through with the, what worth have I ever been except that I know the enemy.
Yeah.
So
she really much sees herself even as the only reason why I'm useful is because I know so much about the hive.
Yeah, and she vests her self-worth in how useful she is.
Yeah.
Even
that's kind of
though
janky to do.
She says, Mara would remind me I'm more than just my uses. So again, there's a very, close friendship or association there between those two. And then she kind of ruminates on like what would leaving the traveler behind actually mean? And she says, there's obvious examples, survive as raiders, as the fallen, or abandon our humanity and become machines as the Vex, or rise up and build a empire of war like the Cabal. And then she clarifies, but none of these can be the answer, because the fallen and the Vex and the Cabal and the Hive all covet the traveler in some way.
Yeah. They're all still chasing down the damn traveler.
they're
Gaul
all
tried to do such
still
as encasing it and stealing the light. The Fallen have been chasing it since their collapse happened. The Vex are chasing it because they don't understand it.
and the
Like,
Hive are chasing it because it's the enemy.
it's
So
the enemy. It's the
in a
sword logic there.
way, they're still all shackled to the existence of the Traveler. Even the
Holy
Hive,
shit,
because it's
man.
like the ultimate enemy. And then she makes the statement that if you were to leave the Traveler's protection entirely, if you were to say, I'm not going to attack the Traveler and I'm not going to defend the Traveler, I'm going to leave the light completely, and just go off and do whatever it is I want to do, by the very nature of continuing to exist without the light, you are obeying the laws of the dark. Which,
Oh
even
my
if you're not
god.
becoming,
If you're not following or directly interacting with, you're still
You're
not
still
part of the light, and therefore you are part of the dark.
you're still proving its point by
Oh my
continuing
god.
to exist in the universe without the light.
Dude, this is deep.
But then we have this last two lines, which she says, even so, I am proof of otherwise. I move between. There is not only gray between black and white, but all the colors are there. Am I not necessary? I would be lost without those that led me back to the light, but if I had not been there to guide them into the dark, they would all be dead. So she's saying that even though light and dark seem to see things, or at least the darkness, because we've never heard directly from the light. But as much as the darkness, at least, seems to see things in absolutes, and you are either this or you are this. Eris is saying that her very existence is proof that that absolutes are not the end all be all.
Yep.
That she is walking a path that is neither one nor the other. And I really like the line that there's not only gray between black and white, but all the colors are there, implying that like she is walking a path that is neither light or dark, but there are other paths that are also neither light nor dark. And honestly, I think our guardian is probably is one of those other paths.
I think so too. I also like thinking of that as in both in a literal sense as well. Like if you the two types of references that we have as humans to color and light and dark are the artistic with a color palette, right? Like starting with the color wheel and starting at red and going around all the different colors and going back to circling back around to red, but going from red to all the way to purple. And then the white being the absence of all color, and the black being all the colors combined. Then there's the electromagnetic spectrum theory, or not theory, the electromagnetic spectrum
model.
That's a better, yep. And that's kind of what we equate the when we talk about the darkness and the light. That's what we equate them to, is being of 0 hertz or infinite hertz, right? Like that's the thing. Well, the light spectrum is also in there, and in the light spectrum, the absence, it's the opposite, right? It's the absence of light is darkness, and white light is all the colors. So I like drawing that literal interpretation of that into the there's not just light or dark, there is everything in between. Because again, depending on who you talk to, if you talk to an artist, they're like, oh well, white is this and black is that and the colors are this. And then if you talk to an EM, or an electronics major, a laser major, or something like that, they're like, oh well, that's opposite. This is this, that is that, and this is the opposite of that. So I like that. I like that thought of like there are many paths between light and dark, or white and black, that can be walked, and that there is no true correct answer.
And the very last line, who would we become if we were all like Eris Mourn? That to me, essentially, if I were, what that makes me think of is all of the different guardians in the in-game universe that now are using stasis and the light, and have not been corrupted. And like slowly we are all becoming like Eris Mourn
Oh
and
my
finding a
God.
path between.
That's dude, this shit is deep. Wow. Well, I'm looking at time. Do we want to call it here for this portion?
Well, and say that's kind of where Eris's story ends, to be honest.
We do have just a little bit extra for her. She does go to Europa and helps out the Drifter and the Exo.
But does almost nothing of consequence.
Right, like she's not actively involved there. And then I'm thinking through the series of events that happened between Beyond Light and now, and the only like she has a few interactions here or there, but nothing major.
No,
So yeah, so that pretty much is the story of Eris,
yeah.
from birth to now.
Yeah, because we had Season of the Undying, which although Hive related, she did not participate in at all.
That's true.
Or if she did, it was like a dialogue here or there. That was mostly Crow
Not
and
even. It
Osiris.
was Osiris.
Osiris, yes. Season of the Chosen, which was all Cabal.
She did have the cutscene at the beginning of Season of the Chosen, I believe it was, where she shows the Savathun sign.
Yeah, she warns
emanating
that
from her hand.
Savathun is coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
She warns Zavala where we're in the office with Zavala. And then we go deal with Keitel. So yeah, she doesn't really have a whole lot of.
Yeah, no.
Or no, maybe that was Splicer. Maybe that was the beginning of Splicer. Yes, that was the beginning of Splicer because it was dark. The sky was blocked out.
That's right. Yep. You're
And that was the whole thing with Splicer. So there's a little bit there in the background that's happening, but nothing directly with Eris is like, just let me go. Let me go investigate this stuff on my own and be my own person.
Yeah. So really nothing groundbreaking coming from her specifically. Like you said,
Yep.
she's definitely doing stuff in the background for some of those. I think especially Splicer.
Yep. Because it's so directly related with Quoria and Savathun.
But even then, I don't even remember her coming up as a prominent figure in any of the lore of those seasons, like in the lore books or anything.
No. Nope.
So I think Witch Queen will, presumably be the next major story beat that we see Eris take a major role in.
Excitement.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it.
Okay, well then we're gonna do a quick Valentine's Day shout out to our long lost Valentine's Day event, Crimson Days. This is our hashtag special, hashtag Crimson Day special, or hashtag Valentine's Day Crimson Day special. You wouldn't happen to have the lore card of the vow pulled up, would you?
I can momentarily.
Alrighty then.
So while I'm doing that, I'm going to pose you a question.
Okay.
Which I was posed to me by my significant other. If you could give a Valentine to anybody in the Destiny universe, who would it be and why?
Oh man. Okay. All right. So let me think through this logically. All right. So everyone's first choice is like Mara, right? Like, oh, Mara is queen and she's the most beautiful, and oh yeah, no. Let's see. Would it? Okay, let's go through and let's reverse engineer this and do an elimination. Zavala, maybe. Shax, no. Lord Saladin, no. Banshee, maybe. Exo, definitely. Ikora, maybe. Ada, maybe. Drifter, maybe. Hawthorne, no. Rahul, no, because he's a dick. He's canonically a dick.
Canonically a dick.
No
yeah.
way. That guy is not getting shit from me. Osiris, if we ever find him again, maybe. Amanda Holiday, definitely. Savathun, maybe. Quoria, no, that's not happening. Does it have to be an entity that I have to?
I think the intention of the question was somebody that we can interact with. Let's say in the tower.
It's. I was going to say, are we playing Bang Kill Mary? Is that what's happening here?
I don't think that was
in my head.
I don't think that was the nature of the question. I'll let you
that's
answer
definitely where I took
like.
it.
I took it as a, or I chose to take it as a like, okay, if I'm not saying like who in the Destiny universe would I want a romantic relationship with, but just a who do I feel needs a Valentine? Who do I feel platonically would benefit the most from it? That I would want to kind of make their day better. I landed on either Crow or Saint because they've both been through some shit as of late.
I would probably lean towards Saint. Like Saint's been through some shit. Like being lost in time and literally becoming a time paradox. Like his shotgun exists because he gave it to us, but it only exists because he gave it to us because we gave him the parts to it earlier. And yeah, so like being lost in time. Oh, you know what? I'd give it to Praetus.
It can't get much more lost in time than that.
I'd give it to Praetus because is he still trapped in time?
I think, well, because we find his remains.
Do we
in the D1 mission? Was that D1 or was that D2? That might have just been really far back D2.
We find the remains of Saint.
No, yes, we find the remains of Saint. No, we find the remains of Praedyth. I think it might have been Destiny 1. Let me.
Okay. See, this is why I have Myth. He's just my Google machine.
That's right. Let me just type it in to let me Google that for you and send you the link.
Yep. If you're curious of who does all the research, it's Myth. Full stop.
Let's see.
Maybe Praedyth or Saint. I don't know. Like my problem with Valentine's is like I don't have a real connection with any type of holiday just in general, just me as a person. My lovely wife is slowly getting me to open up more about like having a birthday and Christmas and stuff like that. So I don't like in my head I always think of Valentine's Day as like the bang kill marry holiday, which I know it's not. It's like I know canonically, like not even canonically, like in reality, it's not that level of deep thinking. But no, I Valentine's may just be like a who do you think needs a. I like your take on it. Like who canonically in the game needs just a little bit of love, just a little bit of hey, I'm thinking about you. You're important to the team, and I appreciate you. I might still go with Amanda. I think Amanda Holiday.
Yeah. No, I say she.
Either Amanda, Saint, or Crow. I think would be the three main ones. Maybe Mithrax. No, he doesn't feel like he's unwanted. Like
no, I think
I might find
like
a random
on
Elixni.
The upswing of things. Although,
yeah,
I'm sure
he's
there's
definitely
plenty of Elixni
that could use one. Oh, you know what? The dude from the story. That's who I want to give it to. There's one Elixni in one of the lore books that gets kicked and shit on and all this other stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's who that's who I'm giving it to.
No, that's a good one. I
can't remember his name. Is he the weaponsmith that they talk about? Or he wants to be a scribe or something like that?
I think he is.
Or he wants to be a weaver.
No, I think the Weaver's a different lore book. I would have to go back and reread some of that.
Well, that guy. Fallen. That's who I want to give a Valentine's to.
Yeah. The one that my SO picked out was, and I thought this was kind of funny. The postmaster, because apparently they're going around picking up all the shit that we just leave on the ground and then keeping it for us.
and only keeping some of it, like only keeping a certain amount of it until we just come up to him and go, nah, just throw that away. And he's just like, are you fucking serious? I walked all the way to the fucking vault of glass for you to pick this shit up, to make sure that you got it, and you're just like, dismantle it and throw it away? You fucking asshole. Like, okay, all right. So, all right. I like that pick too.
So yeah. But I have the vow here. Not at all relevant to what we were talking about earlier in the episode. This is purely just a little flavor text, because today, at the time of recording, is Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So the vow is a legendary bow that you get from Lord Shax during the Crimson Days event, which sadly is gone at the time for the time being. And its lore reads as follows. In the courtyard of the tower, Lord Shax stares out at the last city. He puts his foot up on the railing and sighs. Our site 9940 knows Shax's moods, because they are his own moods. He sidles up to Shax and follows his gaze to the horizon. What's on your mind, boss? He asks with the friendly rhythm of a local bartender. Shax is quiet for a long time, but Arcite is indifferent to the passage of time. When Shax speaks, it is with a deep, sobering gravity. Today, he says, I will marry them all. Hours later, after Arcite has finished tying off the bouquets and gathering the doves from the mountains beyond the city, Shax addresses the courtyard. Guardians, he booms, these crimson days are a time to renew our bonds to one another. We gather together. We remember what we owe each other. We declare our love. He holds up a bow for the crowds to see. Bring your fiery passion to the crucible. Prove your devotion to your bond. He pauses. To those of you who win this bow, I offer my hand in marriage. Take it or leave it. Arcite releases the doves. Somebody screams. Doves have not been seen in the last city for a long time. And that is the vow.
It's so dumb, but I love it. I had read that I've read the vow many times. The vow is actually one of my favorite bows in game because it was a solar lightweight that had a static roll of, I want to say, Archer's Tempo Rampage, or maybe it was Archer's Tempo Explosive Head or something. I don't remember. You can still go get it. It's sunset technically, so it maxes out at whatever the current power cap is, or the current power cap for sunset weapons, which is 1100 right now. Presumably forever, but when you mouse over them, they say power cap 1060, current power level 1100. So, maybe they'll fix that. But no, I absolutely love this bow, and I love the lore on it, especially the doves are released and someone screams because they've never seen a dove before. They're like, "What the fuck is that?"
I love that visual.
I do love that idea of somebody just
grand proclamation, and then these these birds being released behind him, and people just going, "Oh my god!"
What the fuck is happening? The apocalypse is nigh. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what I imagined in my head happening. And so Crimson's Days was 2v2 PvP, and it had two buffs, or it had a buff and a debuff. The buff was I can't remember the name of the actual buff, but essentially you wanted to stay next to your partner,
Yeah,
because you would get increased health regen and all this other stuff. And the debuff was growing apart. So it's very much plays on the Valentine's Day thing. And there was emotes and sparrows and stuff you could get in games.
oh
So
yeah.
I'm a little
There's whole
bummed
bunch
that
of good
it is not around anymore. Sorry, what was the?
No, I'd say there was a lot of cool stuff. They had the two sparrows that were each half of a heart that had
Yep.
a visual effect when you rode them next to each other, which was very difficult to do out in the wild. By
Insanely difficult to do in the wild. They should have just made a 2-person mount that, like, if you both
Right,
had
that
it,
would have
you would
made
just mount
sense.
up on either side of it. Like, yeah.
So,
So rip
I think-
Crimson Days. Pour one out for you.
Yeah. And I think that's where we end it for the night. This is a particularly long episode, but we really wanted to finish Eris Mourn's story because we're intending to hopefully talk about the lore of the Witch Queen Collector's Edition.
Really hope so.
On the Monday before Witch Queen releases. So
since all the servers are going to be shut down at 7:00 in the afternoon, like,
right. So we might as well give you something to listen to while you're sitting in that long queue.
We may try to get the rest of the clan in here, and we'll get some new voices for you to listen to.
But so all that being said, I think we're all good for tonight. We want to do our outro, Zor.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you. So let's see here. Obviously, thank you to Eris Mourn's voice actor, because, and I butcher her name every time I say it, so I'm not even going to try it here. Myth, if you want to give it a shot, go for it.
Morla Gorondona.
And we are so sorry if we have butchered your name, but we absolutely love you. We know that, like, I've watched some of the motion capture that they do for her, and it's all she is very much into this character, and she loves being able to play everything that I've seen about her at all the any type of, like, Comic-Con type event that she's gone to with this. She does seem to absolutely love this character, and so I absolutely thank you. Thank you for bringing this character to life and giving us something to talk about. I don't know who I want to give this next one to. I'm kind of torn between Savathun and the Darkness. So we're just gonna thank you both in the same, because you're both nuts.
I feel like if we were to go back, at least Savathun, maybe both of them, have gotten more thank yous at the end of our episodes than probably any other in-game character.
Dude, without them, Destiny wouldn't have an antagonist to chase down. Thank you to our guest host tonight, Myth's significant other. I hesitate to use names in here because some people don't like that. So
yeah, I stray
does she have
away
any type of screen name she likes?
No, unfortunately, which is what makes it difficult, because I don't have
she doesn't have a Myth Mourn or a Zorialis type moniker
to refer to her as. But yeah, she was our introducer for tonight. So
yay! Of course, thank you to Alpha and Eclipse for joining us tonight. Like, we love having you guys in here. And of course, last but not least, my favorite thank you of every night. Thank you, Myth, for being here and being the researcher, being my secret Valentines, and yeah, couldn't do this without you.
Well, thank you for being my sounding board to bounce stuff off of, and to tell me when I'm being crazy with my theories.
Your theories make so much more damn sense than mine, though. So.
Well, they only get there after hearing yours and going, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Hold the hell on here. That's crazy and nuts. Here's what really happens. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So next week, Witch Queen previews and craziness. I'm excited. Hopefully, I get my collector's edition this week.
Fingers crossed.
So from all of us lore nerds to all of you all of us Guardian lore nerds, we could even say that. From all of us lore nerds to all of you Guardians out there, we'll see you next week.